Greetings, adventurous travelers and fellow keepers of the lake. How are you all doing? Welcome back. Today we are going to demystify using AI for your prep, your game as an assistant, go into do's and don'ts. This is not going to be a tutorial or anything like that. It's just us chatting about how we can utilize this new tool to our advantage. And of course, this is a very polarizing topic because people see this new tool and it is replacing some of the things that we are doing and we don't feel really comfortable with it. Also, there is a lot of ethical questions surrounding this new technology. Copyright infringement, replacing people in their jobs, making it hard for artists to keep up. But if we look at other technologies in our modern world, especially social networks, we see that some of these problems were still present, but we still use them. And now, of course, it is a question of your own choice if you're gonna use these tools or not. But for example, Meta and copyright infringement, that's a story as old as time. I mean, a lot of creators struggle with their things being reposted to Facebook or Instagram, and then those people that reposted get so much views, sometimes much more than the original artist, and it is a real problem. But I think it all boils down to regulation and our own relationship with these technologies. As a software engineer, I have been thinking of how AI will impact our field, and of course it writes code, but it's not enough for AI to write code if it can't do what senior programmers do. It can't design something that is very specific. It can't do something that hasn't been done before. It can't pull from so many different experiences that humans have and apply it to a specific company problem. And of course, there is also a question of privacy. Not a lot of companies want to have their things mingle with the rest of the data, right? Because it can be used to train models and maybe help your competition as well. So at this stage of AI development, I don't think it can replace artists. I don't think it can replace programmers. I don't think it can replace DMs. Will it be able to do that at some point? Well, probably. A lot of these things can be done, but in my opinion, it sets a new baseline of what art is. If AI can do thing A perfectly, it will become so common that people will start to create something that's drastically different. It happens all the time in art. The most disruptive art pieces are the ones that don't follow rules, and AI is trained on those rules. So I think we are still gonna have an edge there. So the question we ask first is, can AI be a GM? And honest opinion, I don't think so. Even if it works perfectly, I don't think it can work as a GM replacement. The whole point of us sitting around the table and doing this thing, it's not that the person running the game has enough brain cells that they can handle everything that the players do. Of course, a computer will be able to do that. It's the whole act of us gathering around the table and saying no to technology for a while and just enjoying our imagination. So no, as long as AI is not made of spongy materials like humans, I don't think it will ever be able to simulate what we do at the table. Now there's a question of, if I use AI, is that making me a worse GM? There is one problem with AI. It will give you what looks like a lot of creative ideas, and if you're new to this hobby, you might struggle to do anything without it. These muscles need to be exercised. You cannot just take what the AI gives and then run it. I mean, you kind of can, but AI has this thing where a lot of things that it makes without a lot of guidance will be very generic, and at that point it's better for you just to take a module and run that. So if you're just starting out and need to exercise these muscles, I would recommend, like I did in one of my videos, I will put it somewhere there, that you just stare at the wall for a bit, just detox from technology, play some music and daydream. Just try to get yourself to daydream. First 10 minutes, 15 minutes will be horrible. You will be completely just checking where your phone is, but after that the brain starts to feel bored, and when the brain starts to feel bored, it does things. So just have your notebook, and you don't even have to write down these ideas, just like doodle things. And that dynamic of your hand moving and you sitting and watching the wall will actually help you out to get more creative. But at one point you will find yourself with a lot of ideas and they don't seem to connect very well, and that's the perfect time to ask the AI to help you. Some important tips when working with AI is to remember that it is kind of simulating intelligence, right? But it's not really intelligent, and it can only work off of basically the average information that is on the internet. And sometimes that average has more of one thing than the other. So you will be getting a lot of generic answers to all of your questions if you don't provide the context. So what is the context? Context is everything you wanted to know about your world. Regardless of which AI you use, you will have to give it some information. Every time you prompt it, you will have to play around with these prompts to really get what you want. So I will link to just generic tips for prompting in general. So you need to give it some background, you need to say what you want and in what format you want it to be written. You also want the tone. Will it be analytical or like write a story? Basically in which style it's gonna do it. It doesn't work 100% of the time, and you will have to go and have this back and forth with it until it starts returning things in your chat the way you really want it. When you reach this level, it will actually work almost perfectly for your intended purpose. Sometimes this process of fine-tuning your chat is taking longer than it would take you to sit down and do the thing. I will show you some tips that I use so I don't have to go through the whole process every time. But first I want to tell you how it performed when I used it for prep versus like an in-game assistant. In my experience, it's much better for prep if you're doing like random tables, if you're doing adventure design. You can give it enough information about the adventure that you already have, and then it will connect things. It's very good at gluing things. So if you have like bits and pieces, it will find a way to glue them. And then it's very important for you to give it feedback. Say this is good. If you have a little like icon, press it whenever it performs well. Give it a cookie. It's just like training a dog. One other thing that I really like to use AI for is to generate narrative nuggets. They're like random encounters, but like smaller one-sentence things that I keep in my pocket, and then whenever players are going from one destination to the other, or I feel the pacing is stalling a bit, I throw them, just something to observe in the world. I used to do this by hand and it took me ages. So I would write the adventure, give all of that to the AI, give some context about the world, and then make it generate a table. I wouldn't use the whole table as is, of course. I copy a couple that I like, I tell it, I like these, do more like these, then it will probably copy the same exact format. Then you say, okay, but be more creative. I just want you to know that these are the ones I liked, but don't follow the same format. Create something completely new along those lines. And then back and forth, and you will have like 20 narrative nuggets, and you don't even have to use all of them in one game. The ones that you don't use will be used in the next one. So pretty useful stuff. Next, I use it for world building a lot. So I will show you how to have the whole context of your world inside your AI so that you don't have to write it every time. But if you don't go through these steps, you can still use it for this. You just need to have this one prompt that goes over everything in your world that is important for this part of the adventure. Give that and ask, okay, if there was a myth or a legend, what would it be? Then it might go into like Spark Pony territory and you're going to Grimdark. You just say, okay, I'm trying to do this in tone of, you provide the book, you provide the movie, something for reference. What tone are you searching for? It needs that information. Even if you don't like what it outputs, your mind will start working and you will start having ideas that are cool. Even some things that don't fit into your adventure, just copy paste them somewhere in your Google Drive, in your Obsidian, whatever, and then have that as your backup for another time, another session. If your chat with the AI is already trained and you're going back and forth and you like what it's doing, well, after your session is done, you take like very simple notes of what happened in the session. Give that to the AI. Now you can do recaps. I talked about recaps in one of my videos, and I mentioned how I made like a news program that aired every time we start a session, saying how the world responded to what the players did. With these notes that are very simple, it's very easy to do this. Now, players will very much appreciate something like this, and it doesn't take you that long to make. And we all know that biggest limitation of our GMing is not our own creativity, but it's time, free time. For some reason, we are all adults with jobs, and most of our jobs don't involve imagining dragons. So yeah, this is where AI helps, just for these little things that spice up the whole experience. As with any skill, talking to AI, I know there is a whole science behind how you should structure your prompts and how you do it. I learn as any other skill just by doing. I'm talking to it every time I work on something, and I have gotten this intuition, a feeling of how I should say things to get the results. I don't know, there is science behind it. I will leave some things in the description and you can check that out. Sometimes it will completely miss the mark and go crazy and just type stuff that is completely nonsensical. In that case, clear the chat, start again. As I said, there are ways to make this easier, but first, how does it perform as an assistant when you're playing the game? Well, I mostly don't like running from my laptop at all. I like to have this thing somewhere on the side if I need it, but usually I like to have a spread of 2 A4 pages and all my notes are there, maybe some index cards. I just want to detox from technology at this point. I do have a video going over how I approach it, but I think it's useful advice for anyone who would like to try something like that. But sometimes, especially for campaigns that are very open world and I have a lot of world building done, sometimes I will have my laptop on the side and I really struggle with names, and sometimes I struggle with like myths and legends and things that players might ask on the spot. So there is a way to teach your AI some commands. I have commands that are like /name and then it will give me a name. I can sometimes give it like /name and then a bit of direction, maybe like a human, this and this, like wizard, whatever, and it will give me multiple like one sentence ideas for human wizards and how they would be called. How you do this is, well, you basically tell it, okay, you will now understand commands. One of the commands is /name, and I will provide more information after the command. And you go back and forth until it works properly, and then you have it for your game. There is an easier way to do it. If you're paying for ChatGPT Pro, is it called Pro? I don't know. If you're paying for ChatGPT, the $20 subscription, then you have custom GPTs. These are your own ChatGPT flavors. So you can talk to another ChatGPT thing that then creates your thing. And you can explain to it, okay, I want a GPT that does this. And you can also provide some files. You add these files into ChatGPT and it will now have a sort of understanding. It doesn't always check the knowledge files, that's the big issue. There are some ways to go around it with prompting. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but most of the time it gives me at least something I can roleplay off of. I never do dialogue with ChatGPT, it can miss the mark so much, and if you're just reading it out loud without checking it, oh my god, it can create some very interesting situations and also just miss the tone completely. So it's also good for generating items in stores, maybe even like thinking what the enemy would do in certain situations. It can for sure push your game, but it needs to be something that you can really easily type. You don't want to say, okay, wait everyone till I type my prompt. That's why we do these commands. There are tools that are specifically made to help you DM with them, and I will link a couple of them in the description. I used Taverns of Azoth. It is a website for generating like items, NPCs, adventures, everything, and it is trained on a lot of data from D&D and Pathfinder, so it works best with those types of games. So I said I will talk about how you avoid having to type out the whole prompt if you don't have the paid versions. This one tool that a fellow YouTuber and programmer, Warchester Tools, I think is the name, made, has a way for you to add things that will constantly be remembered, and it's specifically made for D&D and other tabletop games. There is also a plugin for your browser called Prompt Genius, I think, where it adds to your ChatGPT another like option where you can specify all the information, and every time you use that prompt it will recalibrate your chat to that. Of course, if your chat is not already filled with things, so new chat and then it can recalibrate. Tutorial for that also in the description. I honestly don't use any of those, mostly because all my notes are in Obsidian, and mostly because of all my notes being in Serbian it really struggles with different languages, but I keep all my things in Obsidian, so I wanted a way for me to just continue writing in Obsidian and for AI to be able to at least, you know, have a certain idea without me having to prompt it every time. And what I found is a plugin for Obsidian that's called Smart Connections. You just go to Community Plugins, search for it, install it, and it will start doing things in connecting your pages in Obsidian. If you're using like links in between pages, datasets, anything like that, it will figure out all of those things. The problem is that it doesn't have its own AI inside, so you will need to find an API key. I will link to the tutorial of how to do that as well, and put it inside this thing. I don't know if you need to have a paid one for ChatGPT, but I know that there are some free models that work with this as well. Again, it won't function perfectly, but for prep, it can be very useful. Again, it's inspiring you. You're not copying the whole book when you read it into your campaign. You're taking bits and pieces and just finding the thing that sticks. And if you're using Obsidian already, I think it's worth trying out. And to finish this off, let's talk generating images and videos. I like generating images for my NPCs. I like generating images for some monsters because it helps me out looking at the picture, and already I can like sense how that NPC, how that monster would behave. I don't know, that's just how I work. I've talked more about it in the NPCs and how to get back into role-playing NPCs video. But sometimes I can just Google search, name an elf or something, find it. Any picture works basically, but sometimes AI can help me out so I don't have to go and search through a lot of pictures to get what I want. Of course, it can also go the other way and I will spend more time trying to generate the perfect picture than I would spend if I do it by hand. Sora and other video generation tools can be used to create like news I talked about, to create like epic moments for your recaps. Cinematics, for example, are really cool. If you have a party and they just defeated a boss and you play on the TV this like cinematic of the boss like falling to its knees, we can take a note from video games. Yeah, I would use it for that. Just save time for me to focus on some juicy things that I feel excited about. I like doing the things that I'm excited about by hand, and I think that's the whole point. No one likes to program a website and do all the like boilerplate things. Same goes with D&D. No one likes to look at the empty page, but give it some structure, add some flair from AI, and you will get inspired to really dig into the meat. I think that's the whole point. So yeah, those are my thoughts on it. If you have been playing around with AI and you have your own tips, advice, something, it would be great if you can leave it in the comments for all of us to enjoy. Let's make a repository of useful things, as always, down there. Or jump into our Discord and talk to real certified humans. I really hope I'll be seeing you there, but until then, I bid you
farewell.